One thing that did happen during the 60s was some music of an unusual or experimental nature did get recorded and did get released. Now look at who the executives were in those companies at those times. Not hip young guys. These were cigar-chomping old guys who looked at the product that came and said, I don't know. Who knows what it is? Record it, stick it out. If it sells, all right. We were better off with those guys than we are now with the supposedly hip young executives who are making the decisions of what people should see and hear in the marketplace.
Success in the music business begins with a dream, a vision. This podcast will give you, the listener, the insight and tools to turn that vision into a reality. Meet the industry professionals who work day by day behind the scenes, helping to make those dreams come true. Welcome to the business side of music.
This is Bob Bender. You're listening to this edition of the business side of music. Today in the studio, we have Michael Mott. You're born and raised in New Hartford, New York. Composer, lyricist, singer, actor, and voice teacher. Graduated from Ithaca College with a bachelor's degree in musical theater performance. After graduating, he moved to New York City and enjoyed a successful career in performing in numerous off-Broadway regional and national touring shows. In 2012, he decided to shift his focus to writing and was accepted into the prestigious BMI Lehman Angle Musical Theater Writers Workshop. That's a mouthful, just saying.
I know
that.
It is, I know.
He has since been named one of Playbill's contemporary musical theater songwriters you should know, and we're going to get to know him today. Michael's debut album was released in 2014, titled Where the Sky Ends. It's a compilation album of his original theater, jazz, and pop music performed by some of the best singers on Broadway, co-produced by Michael and legendary orchestrator-producer Kim Schoenberg. Due to popular demand, Where the Sky Ends, the dance remixes was released in October of the same year and spawned the popular dance track Gone, which has surpassed 1 million streams on Spotify. I think we were talking about this before the show.
Yeah.
His follow-up studio album, Abandoned Heart, was released in September 2017. The album offers a variety of feel-good pop, anthemic, soul, and introspective ballads. Mott's concert work includes sold-out performances of his original material at numerous venues, including 54 Below, Joe's Pub, one of my favorite places.
Love Joe's Pub.
42 West, Rockwood Music Hall, the Laurie Beecham Theater, and the Kennedy Center. He's currently traveling around the United States performing his material regionally with guest vocalists from the stage and screen. As an actor, Mott has performed off-Broadway in Milk and Honey and I'd Rather Be Right. Other credits include Kiss Me Kate, Do Black Patent Leather Shoes Really Reflect Up? I believe they do. 9 to 5 and A Closer Walk with Patsy Cline. Michael is an advanced member of the BMI Musical Theater Writers Workshop and a proud member of the Actors Equity Association. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you. That's amazing. That's my whole bio.
Yeah.
I haven't heard the acting resume in a long time, so that was cool.
And that's actually...
I forgot I did half those shows. That was a whole other life.
and I want to get into it a little bit. So let me ask you, you're a New York native, born and raised, went to New York City. Where'd you get the bug? How did this whole thing get started?
Because I grew up listening to pop radio. When I was 16, I wanted to be on Saturday Night Live. That was my goal, to be a cast member on SNL. That's all I wanted to do. And I just studied comedy, and I studied physical comedy and sketch comedy, and I had a teacher in high school that was like, if you're going to do this, you need to audition for the school musical. And I said, I'm not doing that. I don't sing. And then I found out in like my sophomore year of college, at high school, that I could sing. And then
Surprised yourself?
Yeah. And then I got into the high school. I got into the first show was The Sound of Music. I was Lederhosen boy number 27. Yeah. And then the next year I ended up doing all like the leading roles in high school. And I was like, okay, this is it. This is what I need to be doing.
Right.
And it was amazing. Yeah.
How did you get into writing?
Well, so I had always been writing actually on the side, but I didn't have any formal training. Mm-hmm. When I would take piano lessons, I would be studying like a classical piece, and I'd go off and make it pop. I'd just go off and do my own thing, and the teacher would be like, he never practices. My mom would be like, practice, you have to practice, and I just would do my own thing. And then I started writing my first musical. I went to the New York State Summer School of the Arts, which was founded by Alec Baldwin, and I did that in 2001, I think, 2002. And is
this something that you get invited to? You have to apply for?
No, you have to apply.
Apply.
And I think they take like 30 people, 6-week course in the summer on Long Island, and I did it. And the project at the end of the summer was to write a 10-minute play. And I was like, well, I don't want to write a play. I want to write a musical because everyone else is going to write plays and I want to stand out. So I wrote, my first show was called The Life of a Mob Wife, which has now evolved and is, all these years later, is premiering in London actually in January.
Oh my gosh.
So, now it's just called Mob Wife. But then it was The Life of a Mob Wife, and I just kind of took this idea of like Married to the Mob, Tony and Tina's Wedding, like that kind of idea, and spun it. Because my whole family, I'm 100% Italian, and like I'm obsessed with the mob and the mafia, and I'm obsessed with.
I couldn't tell the hand gestures.
No, I know. I have to use that. And I also grew up on Mariah Carey, so I'm very used to like a lot of hands going on.
Gotcha.
So yeah. So that started, and then from there, the teachers were like, "You have this gift for writing music," and I thought, okay, and then I just kind of went down that path. And so I got into the BMI workshop, and it all fused together.
It's amazing. We talk about this a lot on different podcasts where some people have to really work hard to get there. It sounds in this case that some of it just kind of fell into place for you. Is that how you feel, or?
Well, I think it was serendipitous that's all. Like I'm led to where I'm supposed to be, but I work my butt off to get this, and it's a constant hustle. So. It's almost like when I was acting, the universe or God, whatever you want to say, was pushing me towards writing always. I was always in this field. And I've been very fortunate and blessed to do all the things that I'm doing in this field. However, I put in a ton of work. And it's like when I got into the BMI writing workshop and then I met my mentor and my first album came about, like everything kind of fell into place. But it was still a hustle to get the great singers that I got, and
and you're competing with so many other people. I mean, we talk about that a lot here in Nashville. This is a very deep pond, and there's a lot of great talent swimming around in it, and you really have to rise to the top. It's no different from what you're trying to do.
Right.
Yeah.
The difference here, actually, I've been here maybe 72 hours now here in Nashville, and the environment is so warm and welcoming and supportive, and I have this whole new sort of inspiration here. It is just the best kind of community, and I feel like you can share ideas freely, and everyone wants to vibe off of each other, and you want to come together and make the best art you can. And it's not that it's not like that in New York. The Broadway community is actually very supportive, but it's just a different kind of energy because you're sitting by yourself or with your collaborator writing this show, and every other composer and lyricist is writing their own musical.
Right.
You're not collaborating with other composers that way.
I think that's the big word right there is the collaboration. In Los Angeles, personally, my opinion from my experiences, you don't see that at all. Everybody's out, they've got the hustle, they're trying to make their mark in the industry, and there's really not that much, hey, let's help each other out and see where we can get. Where in Nashville, you're right, and we've noticed that in years past, guitar players especially, maybe they're a session player and a live player, and a tour comes up, and so they call their buddy and they say, hey, can you take my place at such and such? Well, I go out and do this gig, and when they come back, they know that their job's there waiting for them because everybody's helping each other, and I think creative influences like that, that's really the best way for all of us to work. And this town especially, and like you said, then you've got that little warm, sweet Southern style. My wife and I went to lunch last week with Vinny Rubis, the co-producer, and the waitress at the restaurant is calling us sweetie and honey, and would you like banana pudding? And we're like, where are we? This is so
well,
cool.
You're new to this place too, like me. I feel like this is a second home already.
Yeah.
As soon as I got here, I was like, okay, I can work here. I can make art here. And I was writing this morning, and I felt like I was showing my manager this. I was like, look at this. I feel like it's some of the strongest stuff I've done because I'm inspired in a different way than I normally am. And also I usually write at home in my apartment, and I'm out of those four walls. I see something different, and I'm meeting all these great people, and I'm around amazing songwriters, and I'm hearing incredible songs and with great subject matter that's pushing me in a different way, challenging me.
And I think that's something else too, is because there is a certain amount of inspiration that goes on. The environment, I think, has a lot to do with that. And getting out of those four walls in your apartment, all of a sudden, I'd love to get your input. You start seeing creative things, or I should say, you start seeing new things,
right?
And that helps the creative juices flow.
Absolutely. And so I'll go to I'm lucky that I live in Manhattan, and I can go to different places in the city, even if it's my rooftop, and I can get a tan and write a song, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's a different kind of experience, or I can go down to the water. I'm very connected to the water, and I'm working on this whole other thing that the water inspires me a lot. It just depends. Like, you're fortunate in New York City because you can go every little borough or every little section of New York feels like a whole new world, different culture. And so if I'm writing something about the Italians, like Mob Wife, I'll go to Little Italy and I'll like sit outside and just write, and it brings a whole other kind of influence energy into the work.
We're going to take a little break. When we come back, we'll talk with Michael a little bit about those musical influences and the energy that goes with it. As we do, let's listen to one of the cuts off of his album, Where the Sky Ends, the songs of Michael Mott. This one's called The Left Side of the Moon. You might recognize the singer. If you ever watched the TV show Chuck, Zachary Levi, who played the star Chuck on that show, he's actually doing the vocals on this. Here's The Left Side of the Moon from Where the Sky Ends, the songs of Michael Mott.
They say the greatest joy in life is learning how to love and letting in the someone who loves you. But there's another side of life that I've been thinking of. My someone had a different point of view. On the left side of the moon, she left my heart in two. On the left side of the moon, I lost romance. On the left side of the moon, she bid my heart adieu. On the left side of the moon, I had no chance. But now it's fine, 'cause you came right out of the blue. Now you are mine, and I never knew what loving could do. On the right side of the moon, you made my heart rejoice. On the right side of the moon, you made me grin. On the right side of the moon, you left no other choice. On the right side of the moon, you let me in. But now it's fine, 'cause you came right out of the blue. Now you are mine, and I never knew what loving could do. On the right side of the moon, you made my heart rejoice. On the right side of the moon, you made me grin. On the right side of the moon, you left no other choice. On the right side of the moon, you let me in. Now let it begin. I'm in for the win. You're under my skin. Oh, you're looking so good tonight, darling. Boy, do I love you. I want to fly you right up to the moon. That's right. Not the left side, of course, the right side of the moon. The side of the moon where we're gonna love each other all night long. That's right, baby. But baby, there's one thing. Under no circumstances can you forget to pack the scotch.
Hi, this is Brian Nutter with Nutter Guitars, and you're listening to The Business Side of Music.
You're listening to The Business Side of Music.
Hi, this is Vinny Rebus, the founder of Indie Connect. Our goal is to ensure that you have the knowledge, the tools, skills, resources, and connections that you need to develop a profitable and long-lasting career in music. One way we do this is through these Business Side of Music podcasts. I'd also like to invite you to check out Indie Connect magazine, our free multimedia online publication packed with practical interviews and advice from music industry experts. Go to www.indieconnectmag.com. That's www.indieconnectmag.com. Let us walk with you and guide you every step of your musical journey.
You're listening to The Business Side of Music.
This is Bob Bender. We're in the studio here with Michael Mott, talking a little bit about something we don't cover too often on this podcast, and that's really writing music for theater. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, especially if you don't live in markets, we are very fortunate to live in Nashville, which has got really a wonderful, vibrant theater scene. But you get outside of, New York, L.A., Nashville, Chicago, it doesn't exist too much, at least not on that scale. Who influenced you? Were there certain people when you started to get into this that you said, I aspire to be there, or I'm going to set my bar at that level?
Yeah, so I grew up on pop radio. My biggest influence, I actually grew up on Billy Joel, Mariah Carey, Frank Sinatra. Very random, but that was what
That's
I
a pretty
to.
broad spectrum
Very
right there.
broad spectrum.
Yeah.
And it's funny because as I've been delving more into their inspirations and their catalog of who inspired them, but if you listen to all of their repertoire, they're actually very diverse. Billy Joel is known for being pop rock and roll, but he, as a singer-songwriter, does gospel and R&B and funk. And the same with Mariah Carey. She covered Help Me Make It Through the Night with Willie Nelson. And it's amazing. It's like you don't hear that side of her, and it's just so interesting to me, the different layers and levels of musical complexity. That's all filtered through me, and I go to all these different styles. The first musical I heard that really gave me the bug was a show called Jekyll and Hyde. Mm-hmm. And it's written by a man named Mr. Frank Wildhorn, who to this day now is my mentor. And Frank was huge in the 80s. He wrote big hits for Whitney Houston and so many, Hootie and the Blowfish, so many people. But you can look him up. And he got into theater in the late 80s, and he has about 8 Broadway shows now, and he's huge internationally. He has shows in Europe and Asia running that are monster hits. Like, he's bigger than Andrew Lloyd Webber overseas. And I discovered that music because it was heightened pop music. It wasn't Broadway as I knew it. I went down his rabbit hole, and I discovered his wife at the time, Linda Eder, and he wrote all of these songs for Linda Eder, and just huge orchestras and sweeping big music, and it was theatricalized pop. And I loved that. And so that was kind of my way into theater. And then I ended up going to school. I went to Ithaca College for musical theater performance, and I discovered all the greats, the Rodgers and Hammersteins and Bach and Harnick and Cole Porter. And I just discovered such a whole vast world of musical theater that I was never exposed to. The great thing about theater is that theater music it's formulated by the story. The story is number one. Mm-hmm. And then the characters that fall into the story, and it's putting your head around the character and how you filter the character through you. So it's not about a great song, it's about a great story that the songs kind of hang on the skeleton of a beautiful story. Because you can have the best songs in the world, if the story's terrible, no one's going to care.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's also very similar to country music.
It is.
The story has to be incredible for the song to work. And in pop music nowadays, it's about like either the beat or taking out Adele, and artists like that. But like a lot of the top 40 music, top 10, top 40 music that's happening right now is about the beat or a cool hook.
There's no storyline. And that's the thing, I think, with country music, and once again, getting back to show tunes. My wife and I, a while back, were listening to Oklahoma. We were starting to pick songs, and her kids, Fiddler on the Roof, and they're all of a sudden we're all sitting around the living room. We're singing these songs that were released,
classics.
40, 50, 60, 70 years ago, but they were classics. Oklahoma sticks in my mind a lot because of the music was amazing, the story was amazing, of course the acting was top notch, and those become timeless pieces. And I think the same thing, with country songs and some rock songs. You can take Smoke on the Water, and it's got a story to tell. What those guys witnessed when they wrote it. But show tunes, you're right. If you don't have a great storyline, if you don't get to know the characters in an intimate way, then it's just a collection of songs.
Exactly.
When you write, do you immerse yourself into the character?
Yeah, so I've been very fortunate in that I have almost 2 careers, and part of my job now has been trying to blend them. So I write musical theater, and I approach that in a completely different way than I write pop.
Right.
And when I'm writing theater, it's a huge collaboration with the book writer is who writes the script. Both shows that I've written have been, early on my idea, I want to write the show about this, and I want these to be the themes, and I want this to be the arc, and this is what I want, and then I collaborate with the book writer, and then obviously it becomes much more of a collaboration.
Do you work together, or do
Absolutely.
you work separately and then come together?
I've worked separately, and it just always falls apart.
Yeah.
You always have to come back and rewrite. And For me, the best, first of all, it's having a collaborator you can trust. It's a relationship. And when we come together, it's about, a lot of times, like my particular collaborator, Nathan Wright, who I'm writing my show In the Light with. In the Light is a Faustian tale. It's our interpretation of the Faust legend. We'll get together and we'll talk about the idea of what's happening in the scene, and then he'll actually write the whole scene. And I'll take the scene and I'll throw away his entire scene and make a song out of it, and then we'll go back and forth, and he'll say, okay, here, and theater music is a different structure than pop music, and it's based in jazz structure, so it's a lot of AABA rather than verse chorus, bridge chorus.
Right.
So a lot of the theater stuff, like I'll do an A, we'll do an A and then a little scenelet, A expanding upon the dialogue into the B, back to the A, and then an extension or something, and then maybe it's a duet, and another character comes in, has their A, a little scenelet, B, A, and then they come together. You know what I mean? It's a completely different thing, which is whatever the scene calls for, what the characters call for.
Yeah, I know that songwriters here in Nashville will sit down, and when they write, they'll start with a basic idea. They'll start with a basic concept.
Well, I think country music is I think maybe I just said this, or I was talking about it this morning and I can't remember.
We do that a lot.
I did.
It's
I was
okay.
I was just having this conversation, and as I'm talking to you, I'm like, did I say that 5 minutes ago on the mic, or was that earlier in another meeting? Country music is the most similar to theater for me because it's so focused on storytelling. Like I said, like a pop song, you have these sometimes 2, sometimes 4 chords that you're just kind of giving you some cookie earworm, which is great and cool in its own right. And I love that, and I listen to that too. Don't get me wrong, I'm not above listening to that. I love that, and I write that too sometimes.
Yeah,
that's its own thing. In country music and in theater, the chord changes are very different, and you can go to a different, unexpected place and be surprising, and tell a story that's surprising, and it's completely acceptable.
On the other end, you take the Temptations, early 70s. Papa was a Rolling Stone.
Yeah.
It was one note. That's all it was. It's just that bass player, playing that little bass riff, and then the orchestra would come in and the horns would come in.
Well, that's the production, yeah.
But they never veered off that one note. The lyrics, that was the song.
Yeah.
And it went on for like 7 minutes.
And that's similar to We Didn't Start the Fire. You know what I mean? It's just about these great lyrics, which I just didn't recite. My apologies to Mr. Joel for but you know what I mean? It's about these great lyrics.
And that song will take you through different levels of, I don't want to say news, but topical.
Yeah.
At that point.
I would love for him to add a verse about what's going on right now.
Yes, exactly.
In this world.
in the last 10, 12, 15 years.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Absolutely,
exactly.
Yeah. And theater, that's an interesting concept because what do you write for? Do you write for a certain period, or do you try and write something that's topical and current, or how do you put it together?
That's a great question. So, first of all, I feel as if you have to pick the project that suits your style. I'm very epic in my style. My style is very big. I write for big vocals, and I write very epic, sweeping music.
Is that orchestrated that way too?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it depends on so my thing is I'll pick a subject that fits that. The Faust legend lends itself to being huge and sweeping.
Right.
The Mob Wife musical, while they can be completely different, Faust is epic and legendary and sweeping, but Mob Wife is a small 8-person cast with a 5-piece band. But these Italian characters sing in this big, expressive manner, so
they take up the whole room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the you have to know what you write. If you wanted me to write the most intimate, subtle piece in the world, I'd probably be your worst choice to write that. But I know that. I'm actually writing a piece now that is that because I'm trying to challenge myself. But who knows if it'll ever go anywhere? I'm just trying to exercise those muscles. But to answer your question, which was what? I just went off on a tangent. Do I write for what? What were you asking me?
Is it topical?
Topical, yes.
Yeah.
So in order,
you made me think for a second.
Because the ultimate question is, why is this piece important right now?
Right.
And yes, you want it to be topical, but I also want it to be timeless. like something that will always come back around.
So, and that's, boy, you talk about something that you really have to line up perfectly. You're creating something that is topical, maybe in the moment.
Yeah, and when it gets produced in 2 years, it may not be topical anymore.
That's right. But is it something that can carry over?
Exactly.
I mean, jumping back to some musicals like Sound of Music, some of that you just can't wrap your head around because you didn't live in that era. But the music is wonderful and the storyline is great. And,
it's a classic.
And it's a classic and it carries on.
Yeah.
When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about your live performance outside of the theater, pop world, and where that's all going.
Sure.
In the studio with us today, Michael Mott, Broadway music composer, pop composer. Has an album out called Where the Sky Ends, the songs of Michael Mott. As we take a break, let's listen to another cut off the album. This is The Devil, featuring Sierra Boggess, who actually originated the role of Ariel in The Little Mermaid on Broadway.
The devil has a secret, and he'll keep it as long as he can. He will mask his face any time or place, but beneath is one hell of a man. Oh, the devil is a mystery. Throughout history, he swindled the wise, but he can't fool me. Any fool can see all the secrets revealed in his eyes. But when he calls out my name, I submit to his game. I remember the night when he followed my light as he came face to face with my flame. Oh, the devil is voracious. He is gracious, charming, and kind. And I won't reveal what he must conceal 'neath the mask he is hiding behind. Submit to his game. I remember the night when he followed my light as he came, as he came, as he came, as he came, face to face with my flame. Oh, the devil gracious, charming, and kind. And I won't reveal what he must conceal 'neath the mask he is hiding behind. With a face full of lies by a mask in disguise. I am saved by the flame in his eyes.
This is Steve Pennington with Showstoppers Promotions, and you're listening to the business side of music.
You're listening to the business side of music. Next up, the Indie Artist Spotlight, brought to you by Reverb Nation.
Hello, I'm Hannah Peoples from Childersburg, Alabama. I'm a proud member of Reverb Nation.
Stars shining bright above you. Night breezes seem to whisper, I love you. Birds singing in the sycamore tree. Dream a little dream of me.
Some of my musical influences throughout my life are Etta James, Bruno Mars, and Adele.
Kiss me. Just hold me tight and tell me you'll miss me when I'm all alone and blue as can be. Dream a little dream of me.
I'm currently working on an EP featuring my pop jazz style of music.
Still craving your kiss. I'm longing to linger till dawn, dear. Just say this. Sweet dreams till sunbeams find you. Sweet dreams.
I'm interested in sharing my song Grenade with you.
Easy come, easy go, that's just how you live. Oh, take it all, but you never give. Should've known you were trouble from the first kiss. Had your eyes wide open, why were they open? Gave you all I had, tossed it in the trash, tossed it in the trash. You did. To give me all your love is all I ever asked, but what you don't understand is I catch a grenade for you. Throw my hand on a blade for you. I jump in front of a train for you. You know I'd do anything for you. I will go through all this pain, take a bullet straight through my brain. Yes, I would die for you, baby, but you won't do the same. You won't do the same. Black, black, black and blue, beat me till I'm numb. Tell the devil I say when you get back to where you're from. Bad woman, that's just what you are. Yeah, you'll smile in my face, but rip the brakes out my car. Gave you all I had and you tossed it in the trash, tossed it in the trash. Yes, you did. To give me all your love is all I ever asked, but what you don't understand is I catch a grenade for you. Throw my hand on a blade for you. I jump in front of a train for you. You know I'd do anything for you. I would go through all this pain, take a bullet straight through my brain. Yes, I would die for you, baby, but you won't do the same. If my body was on fire, Oh, you watched me burn down in flames. You said you loved me, you were a liar, 'cause you never, ever, ever did, babe. But darling, I would catch a growing eye for you. Throw my hand on a flame for you. I'll jump in front of a train for you. You know I'd do anything for you. Oh, I would go through all this pain. Take a bullet straight through my brain. Yes, I would die for you, baby. But you won't do the same. You won't do the same. You wouldn't do the same. You'd never do the same. Oh no.
Once again, I'm Hannah Peoples, and I'm a proud member of Reverb Nation.
You're listening to the business side of music.
This is Bob Ender. You're listening to this edition of the business side of music. In the studio today, Michael Mott. A little bit of a different experience for us because we're talking a lot about theater, which has really kind of been your meat and potatoes. But you're also entering a pop world.
Right.
Or you've been in it for a while, I guess I should say. Right. And that's part of the reason you're in Nashville. You're looking at studios and...
Yeah, so I love theater. I love pop music. Theater takes so long to develop because there's just so much to learn. You're writing
and when you say it takes so long, time length, a couple of years?
The average length of a musical going from a concept to production is 7 years.
7 years. Mm-hmm. Wow.
So my brain does not work like that. I have to be writing and creating all the time.
Yeah.
So it's like that's on the back burner on a slow simmer.
Yeah.
And sometimes I turn it up and sometimes I turn it off and leave it alone.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, throughout that, I'm just constantly writing new material.
Let me ask you that. When you're writing like that, do you just walk away from projects?
No.
No. They're still sitting there.
They're always happening.
Yeah.
And like right now I have I'm actually not even kidding. I have about 7 projects happening at the same time, but they're all in various stages.
Yeah.
We're doing a reading, which is how musicals start. We're doing a reading of this one show in 3 weeks. And so that's at the forefront. And then I have a production in London in January, and that's the back burner a little bit. But then I have these other projects, something that's happening later this fall, something that's happening next fall, something that's happening overseas somewhere.
And they're all at different levels.
Yeah, and so I've been in meetings for the last 48 hours here in Nashville about these other new projects, and they're all at the forefront of my mind right now. So this morning I just sat and I wrote 2 songs for something and just put them away, and they may be terrible, but I have them there, and I'll come back and visit them when the time is right. I have a lot of my voice memos on my computer of just like this project. I'm very organized, so I have folders for everything and just put the ideas and the concepts and the sheet music, because that's also another thing in theater. Everything's about the sheet music.
Yeah,
it has to be clean sheet music that you can read, and then in the pop world, it's like, okay, this just goes like this,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
totally different.
A little bit of
totally different ways of writing and creating.
It is, and I think that's. Boy, you talk about 2 different worlds when you talk about very structured in theater and film and television is the same way when you're writing for that versus, to a certain extent, the country business and the pop world. So now you're heading a little bit into the pop world or really getting into it?
Yeah, so I've been doing that for a while, and a lot of my theater music is very pop inspired. When you hear it, it's very, very poppy. So my second album that came out last fall is called Abandoned Heart, and that is very top 40 inspired pop music. It's something that I can sit and write and just feel complete joy for doing something completely, because I've been sitting in this like dark, epic, sweeping musical world that's just very dark and dangerous and mysterious, which I love, but then I have to come out of that and write the most joyous, fun, up-tempo that people can dance to.
Things out. Yeah.
I can't live there, I have to live here now.
Right.
Then I have all these songs, and so I was fortunate enough to be able to make a second album, and then we tour with it. And I have this series, Michael Mott and Friends, that we've been doing all over New York, where it's myself at the piano and my band, and I kind of host like the Ham I Am, and I can use my theater degree that comes in, and I just like roast my friends that come up on stage and make the audience laugh and tell stories and jokes, and then do my songs. And I'll do some of the pop music, I'll do songs from the shows, and the audience loves it. And it's been going so well. And so I've been touring. I have a residency in Utah, of all places. I've been playing the last 3 years, I think, in Utah. And I just bring like 2 different vocalists with me in our band and some background singers, and we just have a 2-hour concert party.
Why Utah?
They reached out to me, and they offered me to come down there. And I had a great relationship. It's at Utah Valley University, and I had a great relationship with them there. And they ended up doing the first workshop of my musical In the Light. And we were there for 6 weeks. The whole creative team flew down. We used all the college kids, and we learned. Another reason why shows take so long, because once it's from the page to the stage, you see it and you're like, oh, now we need scene change, transition music, or that transition didn't work, and you're seeing it on its feet, and you have to rewrite everything to make it work.
And in many cases, especially when you talk about the touring world, the concert touring world that I was involved in for so many years, that is real heavily involved in theater production.
Yes.
You have your lighting directors and your carpenters and your stage managers and your AV guys and all of that, literally all of that. I don't care who the act is that's touring. That all came from theater.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's all rooted in theater.
It is. But the pop world, different. It's a little more edgy, I guess we could say, a little more of let's try this and see how the audience reacts. You're not taking 2 years or 5 years or 7 years to develop. It's, I don't want to say overnight, but it's pretty quick.
Yeah, very quick. And in the theater world, it's funny because it's singles driven. It's not album driven anymore. And you have to have that hot single, that hot buzz single that's going to make people want to hear you. And you're only as relevant as your last hit, Whereas theater, it's not like that at all. So I kind of come from this weird world where I'm not trying to be a pop star. I'm just trying to do my music because I'm very fortunate enough to have a great fan base. And they support my theater music, but I also love pop. And they're like, let Michael do his thing that he wants to do too. But like, we're here for the theater stuff.
Yeah.
And so they come out and they support it. And I always try to cater to that audience and find that niche. It's a really weird kind of thing because I'm writing theatricalized pop music. I'm not writing, the hits for the radio, which I have a few of those on Abandoned Heart. But
back in the late 70s, early 80s, that was going on back then.
Yeah.
You had groups like 10cc or Pink Floyd who weren't necessarily focusing on the 3-minute single.
Right.
It was, we called it back then, it was album-oriented rock. It's AOR. Yeah. So it's, it's taken on a different direction. It's a different name.
Like Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, unreal. That's as theater as it gets.
Where's
that musical?
Yeah, exactly. Something there. You need to be writing.
Well, there has a Queen musical called "We Will Rock You" that played in London for a while, and I'm sure that song is in there.
You're out there. You're doing this. One of the questions that came up during the break: advice for up and coming artists that want to get into the business, and especially with theater, if they want to become a composer or a lyricist in the theater world. Where do they start? What do they do?
Well, I mean, New York is really the place for that. New York is the place. There's a little bit of it in L.A., and I don't want to speak to that because I don't know L.A. very well. But New York is the haven for Broadway.
And I think everybody's always considered, it's the Great White Way. It's 42nd Street. It's Broadway.
Absolutely. If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere.
Yeah.
And the thing about New York is, for me, I was fortunate because the BMI Layman Angle Musical Theater Writers Workshop, as big as a name as that is, that really gave me my confidence in the direction that I needed. Mm-hmm. And what that program does is they accept 15 composers and 15 lyricists a year. And you go through this 2-year program and you're mentored by the greatest. So Alan Menken is a member of that, who wrote every Disney movie you can imagine except Lion King. Don't talk about that to him. Bobby Lopez and Kristen Lopez, who wrote Let It Go, wrote Frozen. Let It Go is the big hit from that. Steve Flaherty, Lynn Ahrens, like great people. Maury Yeston, who wrote 9 and Titanic, and like just amazing mentors and teachers in that program that all went through that program. And that 2-year program really, for me, set me up for success in writing in the theater, because I had always written, but I didn't really know the structure or the foundation of the songwriting history in theater to make it work.
Right.
And when I got there, I did the 2-year program, and I was like, okay, now I know what I'm doing. And they just set you up for the success with all of these people. I'm fortunate enough to be in the advanced program now, so I can go, however long I want, whenever, and present a song. You don't know who you're presenting next to. And the teachers are just these amazing legends that there's just so much to learn, and then it's also networking, and that's what I would say if you want to get into theater.
And I think it's that way in all aspects of the entertainment industry, but network, get to know people, find out who they are.
But network in a way that doesn't make them feel like all you want is something from them.
Right.
Because that has happened so much, and you can see right through that, and it's just be actually authentic and genuine in what you want.
I think so many of us that have worked in the business at least as many years as I have, and probably you, we do see through that pretty quickly. And I don't want to say jaded. I don't think that's the word, but maybe it is. But, we get a little tainted after a while, but at the same time, we see people that we know are genuine, or at least we assume are genuine, and you really want to help them.
Right.
You want to help them get that step up.
Right.
It's not a handout, it's a hand up.
Right, exactly.
Hits. Working on hits.
I mean, I would like to hope. I don't ever think this is a hit.
Yeah.
But I just try to write what I can.
You don't write to say this. I'm going to write this to be a hit.
I will tell you this. I will admit this. I was writing I had a great connection to I still do, to a huge label, and the EVP called me in and was like, "Here's these 3 artists. Write songs for them, and here's the subject matter, and here's what we need from you." And it was very specific yet so vague. And so I sat down, I listened to all of their catalog. I'm talking like A-list artists that if I said their name, you'd be like, oh yeah. And I sat down and I was like, okay, how do I craft that kind of hit? Like, what follows for them? And those songs are on Abandoned Heart, actually, because they were on hold for those artists for about 5-6 months. Mm-hmm. And then now they didn't get picked up. And so I kind of retitled them, changed it up a little bit, and then put them on my latest album. And they're doing well. They're doing good. They're I don't know if they're not hits by any means, but they're doing well for my community.
They're great songs.
I mean, you can if someone thinks they're great songs, great.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna say that.
That's what it comes down to.
I'm proud of them.
That's just it. If
I'm
you're proud of it, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
How can people find you?
I am on you can find me everywhere.
Okay.
I'm on social media everywhere. So Instagram is Michael_Mott. I'm on YouTube. I have a lot of my live concert material on YouTube. I try not to give it all away, but Michael Mott Composer. My website is michaelmott.net. I'm on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Amazon Music, everywhere. I will sing for a dime. So yeah.
So we'll sing for dinner.
Yeah. Exactly.
Great. Michael, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for inviting me. This is awesome.
If you're interested in learning more about our show, drop us a line at musicpodcast@mail.com. That's musicpodcast@mail.com. If you have any suggestions of persons or topics that involve some facet of the music industry that you'd like to hear about on our podcast, please feel free to let us know. You can follow us on Facebook on the Business Side of Music podcast page. You can also find us on Twitter at Music Business Podcast. Also, if you're listening to this podcast on iTunes, post a review on what you think of our show. This is Bob Bender, and you've been listening to this edition of The Business Side of Music.
The Business Side of Music is the creation of Tom Sabella and Tracy Snow and is produced by Bob Bender for Bob Bender Productions. Co-producer for the show is Vinny Rivas. The Business Side of Music is recorded at Music Dog Studios in Los Angeles, California and Nashville, Tennessee. Production sound design by Keith Stark. Voiceover and promo by Lisa Fuson.